I've been hearing a lot about this ChatGPT thing. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It is kind of all the rage these days. As an English teacher, it's kind of hard to avoid because this is the most popular way for students to cheat on their essays since Cliff's Notes. So kind of an exciting development, certainly has all of us English teachers on edge. But I've also gotten a lot of promotional materials from people claiming that you can use it to creative write, claiming that you can use ChatGPT to plot novels and things like that, or even write a novel. Some people have written full stories with AI technology. And so I wanted to see how that worked. I wanted to try to evaluate it for myself. Is this really a viable tool for authors? And to what extent can we use AI? Now, I went into this pretty much blind. I'd never looked at ChatGPT before, I'd never seen these AI tools before. So when I logged on, I had no idea what I was in for. What I understood was that you entered prompts and then the AI engine basically scoured the internet and compiled an answer to that prompt from information that's available online and returned that answer, that response, as text. I know there is a limit to what kind of prompts you can enter, but it seems to be pretty broad. So I tried to keep it simple and see what I could come up with. So let's take a look. I started off with, since I am currently in the middle of writing an urban fantasy story, I figured why not let it try to plot out an urban fantasy story and see if it comes up with something akin to what I've come up with. My story is already 35,000 words long, so I'm not going to be using this particular outline for anything. There's other reasons I won't be using it too, but let's take a look and see what it returns. My first prompt that I entered into the ChatGPT engine: plot an urban fantasy novel starring a young wizard detective. My character in my novel is not a detective, but close enough. Figured why not see if it gives me the Dresden Files here. So here's what it returned. Title: Wizard Detective Chronicles, The Case of the Missing Relic. The story follows a young wizard detective named Alex who lives in a world where magic exists alongside modern technology. Alex is a recent graduate of the Wizard Academy and is trying to make a name for himself as a private detective. His first big case involves the disappearance of a valuable magical relic from a museum in the heart of the city. Alex's investigation leads him into the seedy underbelly of the magical community, where he discovers that there are powerful forces at play. He is joined by a cast of characters, including a street-smart werewolf informant, a charming vampire club owner, and a brilliant technomancer hacker. As Alex delves deeper into the case, he uncovers a sinister plot to use the stolen relic for dark magic. He must use all his skills and knowledge of magic to track down the culprits and stop them before they can carry out their evil plan. As the investigation progresses, Alex must also deal with personal challenges, including a strained relationship with his father, who disapproves of his career choice, and his growing attraction to the vampire club owner. In the climax, Alex and his allies confront the villains in a dramatic showdown, where Alex uses his wizardry to defeat the bad guys and save the day. Along the way, he learns important lessons about trust, loyalty, and the true meaning of justice. The novel ends with Alex having solved the case and earned respect from his peers in the magical community. However, he knows that there will always be more cases to solve and more dangers to face as a wizard detective. So that's not bad. It's a pretty cookie-cutter outline. It leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of gaps in there. We need to understand the hero's motivation a bit more. We need to understand who the other characters are. And there needs to be a bit more of a structure in place for that story. Each scene needs to causally connect to the succeeding scene, to the scene that follows up. If you look at my video on writing actions, it covers this. There has to be a causal connection, a causal through line of action in the story. And right now, there doesn't seem to be that. Right now, it just seems to be a bunch of stuff happening, and Alex wants to be a hero because he wants to be a hero. Okay, fair enough. But for one prompt, that's not too bad. It's not too terrible a rough outline. Let's see if we can refine it a little bit further. Develop the hero's desire. And here's what it returned for that one. Alex, the young wizard detective, has always been fascinated by magic and the power it holds. Growing up, he was drawn to stories of wizards and sorcerers who used their abilities to protect the innocent and fight against evil. He dreamed of one day becoming a powerful wizard himself, using his skills to make the world a better place. After graduating from the Wizard Academy, Alex realized that his true passion was using his magic to solve mysteries and help people in need. He saw himself as a detective, using his wizardry to investigate crimes and bring justice to those who have been wronged. Alex's desire, therefore, is to become a respected and successful wizard detective. He wants to use his knowledge of magic and his keen intellect to solve the most difficult cases, earning the admiration of his peers and the gratitude of his clients. He also wants to prove to his father, who disapproves of his career choice, that being a wizard detective is a noble and worthwhile pursuit. Throughout the story, Alex's desire is challenged by the difficulties of his case and the obstacles he faces in the magical community. He must overcome his own self-doubt and the disapproval of others to pursue his dream and bring the perpetrators of the crime to justice. Okay, so now we know a little bit more about the hero. We know a little bit more about what drives him. His motivation still feels pretty flat, still feels pretty cookie cutter. It's kind of hard to believe in somebody who just wants to be a goody two-shoes because he saw other people being goody two-shoes. But at least we have a little bit of a motivation for him. We understand him a little bit deeper. So let's talk about his conflict now. Let's try to develop the villain. All right. The villain in this urban fantasy novel is a powerful sorcerer named Marcus. That's my cousin's name. Who was once a respected member of the magical community. Marcus was once known for his knowledge of ancient and forbidden magic, which he used to help the community in times of crisis. However, his obsession with power and control led him down a dark path. Marcus was expelled from the Wizard Academy for practicing dark magic, and he became an outcast in the magical community. He became bitter and resentful towards the community that had once revered him, and he began to plot his revenge. In the novel, Marcus is the mastermind behind the theft of the valuable magical relic. He plans to use its power to gain control over the magical community and become the most powerful sorcerer in the world. Marcus is cunning and manipulative, using his knowledge of magic to control and influence those around him. He has a loyal group of followers who believe in his cause and will stop at nothing to help him achieve his goals. As Alex investigates the case, he begins to unravel Marcus's plans and learns of his true nature. Marcus sees Alex as a threat to his plan and uses all his powers to try to stop him, putting Alex's life and the lives of those close to him in danger. Marcus is a complex villain with a tragic backstory and a desire for power and control that has led him down a dark path. His motivations are understandable, but his methods are twisted and dangerous. In the end, Alex must use all his skills and knowledge of magic to defeat Marcus and stop him from achieving his ultimate goal. So, pretty common, generic fantasy villain as well, but at least we have some motivation for him. At least he has a place in the story. At least he fits in. So we've got our hero, we've got our antagonist, we've got essentially the situation. We need to have something to give tension, something to create conflict here. We've already got the conflicting sides, but what is really going to necessitate the conflict? What is going to force them together? And so I'm going to ask ChatGPT again to develop this concept. What are the stakes for the hero? Okay, let's go. The stakes for Alex, the young wizard detective, are high in this urban fantasy novel. As he investigates the case of the missing relic, he uncovers a sinister plot to use the stolen artifact for dark magic. If the villains succeed in their plan, they will unleash a powerful force that could have devastating consequences for the magical community and the world at large. As Alex delves deeper into the case, he realizes that he is not only fighting to solve a crime, but also to protect the innocent and prevent a catastrophe. The stakes become even higher when he discovers that the villains are willing to kill to achieve their goals, putting not only Alex's life, but also the lives of his friends and allies in danger. Moreover, Alex's personal stakes are high. He is determined to prove himself as a successful wizard detective and earn the respect of his peers and his father, who disapproves of his career choice. His success in solving this case is crucial to his reputation and his future as a detective. Throughout the story, the stakes continue to rise as the villains become more powerful and more dangerous. Alex must use all his skills and knowledge of magic to stop them and prevent a catastrophe. The fate of the magical community and the world is at stake, and Alex is the only one who can stop it. Okay, oh boy. The end of the world being the stakes. It's been done once, twice, a million times. Now, granted, in fantasy, it is kind of a common trope. The world or some major part of the world has to be at risk. It doesn't have to be the case in every urban fantasy story and every fantasy story out there, but it does often seem to be the case. I'm not going to hate on that too much. It's kind of hard to not have that. But the personal stakes are what's really going to make us care. And I don't believe the personal stakes here for Alex are deep enough yet. It's saying that he needs to earn respect and build a reputation, but those aren't life-ending stakes, really. It's the stakes are basically about his career and the respect of his father, which is something. There's something personal there for him. But it feels like the stakes for him should be higher, or there should be something to escalate the stakes, not just the external stakes. The external stakes are people could die, more people could die, more people could die. That's the escalation of the stakes. We need to get more creative here. Of course, I don't expect ChatGPT to get more creative, but let's see if we can understand the hero a little bit better. We sort of have some stakes for him. We've got what he wants. We've got the villain, the obstacle. Let's try to figure out the internal obstacle. So my next prompt, what is the hero's flaw? Okay, so now we might be getting somewhere. As a young wizard detective, Alex has a strong desire to prove himself and make a name for himself in the magical community. He is intelligent, resourceful, and skilled in the art of magic. However, his flaw is that he sometimes allows his ambition to cloud his judgment. Alex can be headstrong and impulsive, often acting before fully considering the consequences of his actions. He tends to believe that he can handle any situation on his own, without the help of others. This can lead him to take unnecessary risks, putting himself and others in danger. In addition, Alex can be stubborn and unwilling to accept help or advice from others. He has a tendency to think that he knows best and can solve the case on his own. This can cause him to miss important clues and make mistakes. Alex's flaw is ultimately rooted in his desire to prove himself as a successful wizard detective. He wants to be seen as competent and respected by his peers and his father, who disapproves of his career choice. However, his ambition can sometimes blind him to the risks and challenges of his job, making him more vulnerable to danger and mistakes. Throughout the story, Alex must learn to balance his ambition with caution and humility. He must accept help from his friends and allies and learn to work as part of a team to solve the case and save the day. Only by acknowledging his flaw and learning from his mistakes can he truly become the successful wizard detective he aspires to be. Okay, so we understand a bit more about Alex, about our main character here. And we understand, this helps us understand the stakes a little bit more, about what's motivating him, what's driving him, what he stands to lose. Again, I feel like they need to be higher, or something needs to elevate the stakes through the story, which is something you want to do in a story anyway. You want to raise the stakes as the story goes on. That's part of raising the tension. Let's see if we can tie this flaw into the story as a whole. Next prompt, what is Alex's character arc? We need to know what he learns and how he changes as the story goes, and how is that going to help him confront the villain and overcome the central challenge of the story. At the beginning of the story, Alex is a young and ambitious wizard detective with a desire to prove himself and make a name for himself in the magical community. He is headstrong and impulsive, believing that he can handle any situation on his own. He is also stubborn and sometimes unwilling to accept help or advice from others. Throughout the story, as Alex investigates the case of the missing relic and confronts the powerful sorcerer Marcus, he faces numerous challenges that test his skills, his courage, and his values. He discovers that he cannot solve the case on his own and must rely on the help of his friends and allies to succeed. He also realizes that his ambition and desire for recognition have led him to take unnecessary risks and make mistakes. As the stakes continue to rise, Alex's character arc takes him on a journey of growth and self-discovery. He learns to become more humble, accepting help and advice from others and working as part of a team. He also learns to be more cautious and to think before acting, avoiding unnecessary risks and making better decisions. Moreover, Alex learns to confront his own flaws and fears, such as his fear of failure and his need for validation from others. He comes to understand that true success comes not just from achieving one's goals, but also from learning from one's mistakes and becoming a better person. By the end of the story, Alex has matured into a more experienced and thoughtful wizard detective who is respected by his peers and his father. He has become a better listener, collaborator, and problem solver who can handle the challenges of his job with confidence and grace. His character arc has taken him from a young and ambitious detective to a more humble and mature wizard who is ready to take on new challenges and help others in need. Okay, so we've kind of built the fundamentals of a story here, right? We have a lot to go in terms of planning. And if I were going to turn this into a whole novel, I would really want to develop a full outline from it. That did give me a decent amount of workable material for a novel outline, but there's a lot I want to add, there's a lot I'd want to cut out, there's a lot I would want to change. There's plenty that is trite and simplistic in there, that's cliched, and I would want to change all of that. And of course, none of it is really sounding like my voice. But so far, we're just working with plot, so it doesn't need to. But let's try that now. Let's see if we can make ChatGPT write our novel for us, just from what we have so far. You ready? Draft the first chapter. ChatGPT replies, "Sure, here's a draft of the first chapter of the urban fantasy novel starring a young wizard detective. Chapter 1, The Case of the Missing Relic." Alex strode through the crowded streets of downtown, his long coat billowing behind him in the autumn wind. His hand rested on the hilt of his wand, ready for any trouble that might come his way. As a wizard detective, he knew that danger could lurk around every corner, and he was always prepared. His latest case had brought him to the heart of the city, where a valuable relic had gone missing from a local museum. The relic was a powerful magical artifact, capable of granting immense power to whoever possessed it. Alex knew that he had to find it before it fell into the wrong hands. He arrived at the museum and was greeted by a group of anxious curators and guards. They explained the situation to him, and he quickly got to work, examining the crime scene for any clues. He used his wand to detect traces of magic and searched for any signs of forced entry. As he investigated, he sensed a powerful aura of dark magic emanating from the relic's display case. He knew that whoever had stolen it must have had dark intentions for its use. He felt a sense of urgency and unease wash over him as he realized the implications of the theft. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a group of suspicious-looking individuals lurking in the shadows near the museum entrance. They seemed to be watching him, their eyes glinting with malice. Alex knew that they were up to no good and decided to confront them. He strode over to them, his wand at the ready. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. The group of individuals exchanged glances, and one of them stepped forward. He was a tall man with a scruffy beard and menacing look in his eyes. "We're just here to see the sights, officer," he sneered. Alex knew that the man was lying. He could sense the dark magic emanating from him, and he suspected that he was involved in the theft of the relic. "I don't believe you," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "I think you know more than you're letting on." The man laughed and stepped back, his companions circling around him. "You don't know who you're dealing with, boy," he spat. "We're not afraid of your magic." Alex felt a surge of anger and fear wash over him. He knew that he was outnumbered and outmatched. He could feel his heart racing as he prepared to defend himself. But then a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Alex, is everything all right?" He turned to see his friend and fellow wizard detective, Lily, standing behind him. She was a petite woman with short brown hair and a calm demeanor. She had a wand in her hand but was not pointing it at anyone. "Good to see you, Lily," Alex said, trying to sound casual. I'm just checking out some suspicious characters. Lily nodded, her eyes scanning the group of individuals. I see. Do you need any help? Alex hesitated for a moment before nodding. He knew that he couldn't handle this on his own. Together, he and Lily confronted the suspicious group, using their combined magic to disarm and apprehend them. As they turned the suspects over to the authorities, Alex felt a sense of relief and accomplishment wash over him. He knew that he had made the right decision in asking for help and working with Lily. He also knew that this was just the beginning of a long and dangerous case. As he left the museum, he felt a sense of determination and purpose. He knew that he had to find the missing... And that's where it stops. Wow. That sucked. A ton of telling, very little showing, and the voice, the narrative voice there was just, so bland and lifeless. But this is AI. This is not a human being doing thinking. This is just a compilation machine compiling data from the internet. So I'm not blaming it for not returning something stellar, but my God, that is a bad first chapter. Not the worst plot that I've ever seen, but that is just so poorly written. Anyway, so I'm not particularly worried about AI taking over all the creative writing jobs anytime soon. Yeah, maybe it can do a decent job with some basic stuff, but it's not going to be writing the next Star Wars, the next Casablanca, the next Lord of the Rings, the next Hamlet. It needs too much human input. It seems like ChatGPT is a skill in and of itself. You have to learn basically an entire new language to use this as a writing tool. Now, I'm not saying that you should never use it. I'm not saying I'm never going to use it. It seems like it could have its place as a research tool along with all the other research tools we have. Just one more tool in the writer's toolbox for making our jobs a little easier. But I would not recommend anyone use it to replace the job of writing for several reasons. One, because as we've seen from what it turns out, it takes a lot of work and tweaking. You're going to do about as much work with tweaking your own prompts and generating and regenerating text from the AI machine to come up with the story as a whole as you would just thinking up and writing your own story. So it's not really worth it in that sense, in sense of trying to completely replace the writer. Also, from a purely personal perspective, if you use ChatGPT to write, what it's really doing is replacing a lot of the thinking portions of writing. It's kind of creating a dialogue between you and the machine, where you have to think of the new prompts, so you have to understand storytelling already. You have to already understand how to write a novel to use ChatGPT to write a novel. That just seems like the case. You already have to understand writing. You already have to understand storytelling, story structure, characterization. If you don't already have all these things well in mind, ChatGPT is not going to be super useful for you. It might be a good idea generator, but it's not going to be super useful in terms of creating a story because it's just going to give you something generic. It's just going to spit back what it finds. So again, it's an entire skill set on its own to learn, and I'm more worried about some of my English students using it to try to cheat on their papers, their essays, than I am it taking over any novelists or screenwriters' jobs. It just doesn't seem to be that big a threat at this point. So am I going to use ChatGPT in my own writing? Probably not a lot. I might use it, again, as just another tool, along with the dictionary and thesaurus, along with Wikipedia, along with all the other research tools that there are out there. I might use it as a tool for generating ideas. But as far as I can tell, there's no way, certainly no easy way, to teach it my writing voice. It would be very, very, very difficult and take a long time, I feel, for it to capture what my voice sounds like and to return text like mine. Maybe if it read a couple of my novels and then tried to compile something written like me, but I don't know how to make it do that. Do I import all the text of a novel in there? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm not sure exactly. I'm not a tech person. I'm not a Luddite, but I'm not an early adopter. So I'm gonna have to wait and see about the rest of this. My recommendation for ChatGPT is just check it out, give it a try, but do not depend on it to write for you, because writing is thinking. Thinking is writing. Clear writing becomes clear thinking. Clear thinking becomes clear writing. You can't do one without the other, as William Zinsser says, and George Orwell reflects the same idea, as does E.B. White, as do a lot of writers and thinkers over the years. Writing and thinking are tied together. The reason you take English class for so many years in school is because it teaches you how to think. ChatGPT kind of gives you a shortcut for that. It shortcuts that thinking process for you, and that's not going to be the best for you long term. So I recommend that you do not use this as a tool to replace writing. Learn the techniques of writing, learn the techniques of storytelling, learn the craft first. Master the craft as well as you can before trying to replace the pieces with AI, right? Use AI as a supplement, but don't depend on it to write stuff for you. That said, it is a kind of a fun toy to play with. Let me know what you guys think of ChatGPT, and what did you think of the story outline that it gave me from my prompts? I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave those in the comments below, and like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more cool writing content. Yeah, that's my sales pitch now. Awesome. All right, guys. Until next time, good luck playing around with ChatGPT. Good luck with your own work. And good luck and good writing. Peace.